and welcome to another edition of The Big Picture. My name is John Allen Namu here at Africa Uncensored. We're trying to have those big conversations about the things that you care about, and we've just been through one heck of a political season, and we still are going through it in some ways. The August election had thousands of candidates vying for various seats at various levels, right down from the member of county assembly all the way up to the presidential election. Of course, we know now who the president-elect is, as well as various other seats. But there are many lessons to be learned from this election, specifically for young people who want to get into politics and change this country. Today, my guest is one of those people who threw her hat in the ring, literally speaking, and has great lessons to be learned from that experience. None other than, well, she used to be called Fire Mama, but now she's Jahmby Koikai. Unacheka? You thought I didn't know. Amani Fire Mama Jambi. I should have completed.
It's okay, John.
Yeah.
You've done well.
I've tried.
Yeah, you've tried. You've tried. You really tried.
And Jahmby Koikai, of course, joining us to discuss youth politics, the strategies to take leadership going forward. And also in studio, because we do this all the time on Big Picture. We fact-check claims, misinformation, disinformation. We have our very own Nyakerario Omari joining us this morning. Nyakerario, usema kitu, yani changamsha kidogo.
Nabambika kwa hapa na Jambi, na John Allen, and every one of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nyakerario, will be coming back to you in a second with some of the stuff that you've been looking through during this election, as well as more broadly. You were running for an elective post. Tell us where, tell us what the experience was, coming into the election, and what was like on voting day going forward.
So, like you heard, my name is Mary Jahmby Koikai. Actually, Mary is my name.
Yes.
Popularly known as Fire Mama. And I was running for the Dagoretti South constituency, member of National Assembly seat. And I was running as an independent candidate. And I started my campaign in February. That's when I made the announcement, but it's something I had been thinking about for a long time. And the main experience, the whole experience of campaigning in that constituency was quite enriching. I've come out with a great wealth of knowledge, information, and a lot of games that I've picked up.
Yeah.
So it's to me, I've come out bigger, better, and wiser. Dagoretti South is a very special area for me because that's where I was born and raised. That's actually, born and raised there. So I have the lived experience of that area. And I threw myself in that ring because out of the lived experience, out of the challenges we constantly face, I believe that I was the right choice to be able to articulate and represent our people.
Perhaps it's not in this parliament,
Yes.
maybe in the next one.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that you're not the right voice, maybe just not right now, right?
No.
Yeah, hoping that there'll be another attempt.
It was the first time I was vying, and I was vying as an independent candidate. So, like I said, I came out with great lessons. Like I said, I believe I was the right person, but it's not the right time yet. So, I definitely would throw myself in there once again.
Okay.
Because we still have a lot of challenges, and I also have a lot of projects that I've been doing in Dagoretti South, even prior to the election, that I will continue undertaking. And I certainly believe that when the right time comes, I will be able to inform the people of my next move.
I want to speak about something that's a pretty difficult subject.
Yes.
For a lot of people who've tried elective politics. And it's not difficult in the sense that it's tough to talk about, but it's tough to get, which is money.
Yes.
Walk us through what it was like raising funds for a campaign and what that money is spent on. The assumption, of course, is that a lot of it is spent on, yes, branding, etc., but a fair amount of it just goes directly to members of the public who are asking, hey, Zamacho Mweshimiwa, So tell us your experience.
It was one of the things I'd like to tell young people who are throwing themselves into elective politics is to research. And that's one of the things I had a challenge, with before I got into it. Research is important. We did the research way later.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to understand, to understand your area, to understand the constituency, so that if you're able to traverse it, then you'd be able to understand the issues and how to go about it. And that will help you to create your strategies. In terms of resource mobilization, running a campaign is very expensive, and especially if you're running against big parties and experienced politicians, it's important for you to have resources, because like you said, it will go into branding. But then again, for someone like me who was running as an independent and somebody who has been having projects, for example, I've been working with different water companies to provide water for our people, because we have persistent water shortages in our area, and we've also been providing sanitary towels. We've also been providing food items for families that would necessarily not be able to access food. And in this, in these times we're living in, where there's such a high cost of living, it's important for you to understand, like I said, the constituency, and also the cost of politics is also directly affected to the different procedures. This time around, for independent candidates in this country, we were to collect 2,000 signatures. So you collect 2,000 signatures, and then the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission comes up with another law and says, now this time around you have to have 2,000 signatures with 2,000 photocopies of IDs.
That's a cost in and of itself.
That's a cost on its own. And so as an independent candidate without funds, you have to come out and fundraise. And then the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission comes up with a law and says, you need to have those signatures, and there's a deadline. And then, of course, as you're running the campaign, then you're notified that as a candidate who's running for the Member of National Assembly seat, you need to have 175 agents across the constituency.
What does it cost to pay just one agent?
They according to the different parties, they pay differently. But as an independent candidate, you speak to people and they tell you, these parties are paying this, but for us, since you're an independent candidate, it's 1,500. So 1,500 times 175 is costly, and you have to take care of their meals from morning, because once they get into the polling station, it's 5 a.m. and they leave the polling station once the votes leave for the tallying center. So you have to take care of their meals, and you have to take care of their transport as well. It's quite costly.
Okay, so there's taking care of the agents on election day. Let's walk it back a little bit to before the election. So you have your branding. How much did you spend on branding?
I wouldn't quantify that, because I also got well-wishers who came in and they supported with the branding. And a lot of my campaign, material was sponsored by friends and well-wishers.
Did it at any point in time frustrate you that people were asking you for money?
Yes.
And tell me what you would tell them in response, because that's a running theme in our politics. You want the right leaders, but at the same time you want to take from them.
Yes. It used to frustrate me at first, but then I thought, I came to understand it, and I said, there's a great need for civic education in this country, because our people don't really understand the power of their vote. They don't understand why they vote. They don't understand who they're voting for. And they also don't understand why it is important for them to stand up and protect that vote. Because there's a serious crisis when it comes to misinformation. It's a huge crisis, I would call it. And you speak to people, you go to the constituency and you speak to the people and you ask them, okay, fine, I give you that 100 shillings, right? What is it going to help you with? Right now, you can't even buy a packet of unga with that 100 shillings. You are in need of good healthcare. You're in need of, water. You're in need of sanitary towels. You're in need of proper education, access to proper education for your children. You're in need of, basic services. How is that 100 shillings going to help you? And I asked them, you know me, I come from this place. You all have seen me growing up, literally, and starting my career until where I am today. I don't have that kind of money to give you. I would not even want to give you that money, because I will be buying you. And a lot of people, once I started speaking like that, they actually saw the sense in it. And they said, Jambi, you're actually making sense. And that's when it actually dawned on me that this is designed, this is structured by the system and the status quo to keep it that way, so that our people don't have the information and our people cannot be able to make the right choices for themselves.
Perhaps also to keep people like yourself out of elective politics, people who would be able to, force a bit of a sea change when it comes to the politics that we are. And speak to me a little bit about turnout, right? There have been debates going back and forth about how this low voter turnout was as a result of apathy. That's the catch-all phrase. But I want us to nuance it a little bit. Why, in your view, do you think young people didn't turn out to vote as much as they did in past elections?
I think young people didn't turn out to vote because there was no representation. There was no clear representation of young people and who they would vote for, because we're still seeing the same old faces. And like I said, it all boils down to civic education. I mean, there's still some new faces. Like I was vying as a new face in Dagoretti South, but people are just tired. You know, people are tired. That, you know, there's so many issues that have gone unaddressed, unarticulated, and people are very, very tired. And you know, as a young person, I'd be like, why am I going to vote for this person and they're clearly going to win? I mean, or they're clearly going to rig, or, you know, they've been in power and they've not done anything for the young people. And there's also a sense of, unbelief and a sense of mistrust when it comes to youthful candidates. Because when you speak to young people, they say, we voted this young person in and they did nothing. Why should we vote for you?
Okay.
What difference are you going to make?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a tough one to get over.
Yes.
But we're here speaking about strategies.
Right.
If you had another opportunity to do this, what is the one or two things that you would have changed about your own strategy in being able to now, you know, get from being candidate to, you know, member of National Assembly elect? I would be able to, you know, traverse the constituency more and pass my message more, and continue to do the projects that I've been doing on a bigger scale to reach more people, so that more people will be aware of who Jambi is outside of the entertainment scene. I'll be able to do that, and I'll continue doing that. And that's something I learned, and that's something I will continue to do. You know, that's part of, I think, the dilemma with our politics. The member of National Assembly is really there for representation, legislation,
and formulation of policies.
And formulation of policy.
Right.
Those have very little to do with actual, you know, projects, groundwork, even the use of the national CDF, right, which has now been taken away from members of National Assembly.
Right.
But at the same time, there's this need, there's this hunger for people to see you actually doing things on the ground. Do you ever think that a time will come when people will be like, actually, you know, that's not your job. You go and represent me in Parliament and formulate the policies that I require to make my life better. Do you think that time is coming, or are we stepping even further away from that opportunity?
I think it all boils down to civic education, like I said, because once people understand the roles of the people they're voting in and the roles of each candidate and each position in representation in our politics, then they'd be able to make that distinction. Because, for example, what are the roles of an MCA? If you asked, you know, the electorate, if you went out and asked them, what's the role of an MCA? Many don't know. You know, if you ask them what's the role of an MP, many will tell you bursaries. You know, governor, people have no idea. Women rep, people have no idea, or they'll just tell you women rep just represents women issues. But what women issues are they representing? What is the role of a president? People are unaware, and that's why. You see, our politics has been filled with rhetoric, and our politics has been filled with so much, you know,
sloganeering.
Exactly. It's not really agenda-based, but sloganeering, like I said. And if our politics was issue-based, then we would make more, you know, informed decisions. And I feel that, you know, we should be able to advocate for more civic education.
Tell me about how that changes. You know, when I hear the term civic education, I remember GHC.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's one way of doing it.
Yes.
Right? But today, in addition to the classroom environment where you learn about, you know, civics, you learn about what the responsibility of a citizen is, there's other ways of being able to educate people. There's platforms that people use every day on social media. There's shows like, you know, the show that you used to host, right? What are the new ways that we can start to think about reaching young people, so where they are with what they're doing, in order for this message to start to sink in a little deeper than it is at this point in time?
I think one of the easiest ways to reach the young people is through social media. It's a huge tool, it's a huge platform. And I think once we use it effectively, we will be able to reach more and more, more and more young people, so that we can be able to drive this message home. And what are the things that young people love? The youth are interested in sport, the youth are interested in entertainment, the youth are interested in, things that bring them together, activities that bring them together, so that they can be able to express themselves through different art forms. Why can't we be able to use those? Why can't we be able to use those platforms in order for us to spread the message? I mean, we run different campaigns. We run different campaigns in this country which are effective. We run campaigns based on healthcare issues, we run campaigns based on various other issues, and we make sure that we get to the youth. Why does it happen? Why is it that when it comes to politics, we're unable to reach people, to share about civic education, or to teach people, or to educate people about, civics? It's because it's designed. It's by design. It's structured.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your own personal reasons for choosing politics. It's quite a crucible, it's quite something to choose, and it's not easy, and we all appreciate that. But what was your reason for, going into politics?
One of my reasons of going into politics was through my lived experience. And like I said earlier, Dagoretti South is a constituency I come from. I was born and raised there. So I have first-hand experience of the challenges we've been going through, and I threw myself in the ring. And if I take you back a little, I also went through a very intense medical journey where I was battling stage 4 endometriosis, and I went through 21 surgeries. And during those times, I had moments where I thought about my constituency, I thought about my country, I thought about the women of this nation and what they've had to endure through our broken healthcare system. And I decided, once I made a pact to myself and to God, and I said, God, if I get out alive, I will throw myself into politics to make sure that I bring the much needed change in our community and in my country, and especially through the healthcare system, so that women can be able to access treatment, and anyone generally, because we have such a broken healthcare system in this country. And I believe it is enshrined in the Constitution that healthcare is a basic right. It's not basic anymore. Everybody has to pay, and you know what the saying is these days, that you're one paycheck away, or one illness away from poverty. From poverty. Your experience certainly spoke to that. I've never been that unwell, right? But there certainly are those moments in life where you have this dark night of the soul, so to speak, where you start to reflect on those moments. Tell me a little bit more about that. When you started to really think about, my situation is like this, how much worse must it be for other people?
Tell me perhaps one actual moment where those thoughts were triggered in you while you were going through your illness.
It was a very dark time, Alan. Very, very dark. Very, very dark. And I've gone through surgery after surgery after surgery. And all the surgeries I went through, I never thought of anything other than surviving. Apart from one surgery where I was literally fighting for my life. I was losing oxygen, and I could hear the machines flatlining. And in that moment, I was fighting for my life, and the whole ER team was called in, the whole emergency team was called in, and they were trying to resuscitate me, and they were trying to get me back.
And you're hearing this?
And I could hear, And in that moment, I opened my eyes started rolling, and I saw my mother wailing, and they had to take her out. And at that moment, I told God, if I come back alive, I will go back home and be the change I want to see. I thought about people who have no access to the medical services I was accorded. I thought about people who couldn't get to the level where I was. I fundraised for close to 2 years, but I thought about the people who couldn't even fundraise, people who don't have a name, people who are forgotten. I thought about oppressed people, and I said to myself, I must fight this and come back alive. It was it was such a harrowing experience, and within an hour, about 2 hours,
Yeah.
I came to, and I opened my eyes, and that was the last surgery that was ever done, and this was in the hospital that I went to in the US, that Center for Endometriosis Care.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, you know, the whole process happened so fast.
Yeah.
But after that, you know, I had to go through recovery, and I was sitting and I used to write a lot and I used to think a lot, and I said to myself, what would happen if I was in Kenya?
That's an interesting question, because I was actually going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Like, what would have happened if
What
you
would
were
have
in
happened
Kenya?
if I was in Kenya? And then it took me back to the times when I'd be that sick and I'd go to hospital and I'd be told the pain is in my head, or I'm overreacting, or I just love attention.
Mm-hmm. And who is this who's telling you this?
Also by the doctors, some doctors, yeah. But
That you love attention?
That I love attention. Because remember, I was in and out of hospital every single month.
Yeah.
But I met two Kenyan doctors who really changed my life. That's Dr. Morris Muhinga, who's a cardiovascular surgeon, who's a cardiothoracic surgeon, and Dr. Praful Patel, who's a gynecologist. And because for the way the disease had spread in my body, it needed multidisciplinary action. And so I needed to see a cardiothoracic surgeon, and I needed to see a gynecologist. And they were the ones who advised me to leave the country. And they said, listen, this is serious, and there's nobody who can treat you in Kenya. There's nobody who can treat you on this continent.
What a shame.
You need to leave this country as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And they helped me. They helped me to get the doctors. They helped me to, find my way to the States. And I'm really grateful for those two doctors.
Yeah.
But how many people have access to such kind of doctors in this country? Think about a place where I come from, like Dagoretti South. How many women are even aware that they need to see a gynecologist? We've seen quacks running clinics in our constituencies. Can you imagine the damage they do to women?
Yeah.
And the damage they've done to the general public. And once, I started thinking about that, I was like, I need to take action. I need to do something. And I need to be purposeful in what I'm going to do about this. And that's why I decided to vie.
It's such a noble fight, and I think it's one of the most important ones.
Right.
For a government to be able to provide shelter, healthcare, food, those are non-negotiables.
Right.
It's things that we shouldn't even have to talk about.
We shouldn't even be debating about this.
We shouldn't have a single moment of debate about this. Perhaps what we should be debating is how much more money they should be throwing into this.
In fact, John, let me cut you short. And just to remind you and to remind our viewers, I don't think there's a family in this country that has not been affected by cancer. Look at the cancer burden in this country. Look at the amount of hospital bills that are driving people into poverty. Because once you get a diagnosis of cancer, that's it.
It's one of the most, of course, through personal experience and through my work, we've covered so many of these cases, and it's very tough to communicate to someone who hasn't gone through it just how debilitating having an illness like cancer, having any sort of illness that requires more than just a general ward treatment. The moment it goes into surgery, or the moment it goes into into days and days and weeks of care, it completely changes the matrix of how you look at your family, how you look at health, the decisions you make about education.
Right.
So I'd urge you, as just an observer, to keep fighting this fight, because it's not every day that you find people who are as passionate or who have a reason that's as personal as you, for ensuring that we really do get to that stage where healthcare is affordable for everybody.
Yes, and we need reforms We totally need reforms in the healthcare system.
For sure.
Yeah.
I want to bring in Nyakerario to this conversation. Nyaks, you've been listening. I'm sure you have lots of questions for Jambi, but you've also been looking into some misinformation around healthcare specifically. Tell me what you found. Tell us what you found.
Not healthcare, but again, she spoke about how guys ask for money.
Yes.
Now there's something that just came up.
A few steps back. Yeah. Okay. Into money for politics.
Into money for politics. Yes. There's this link after our president-elect William Ruto.
Wait, he was elected when? Day before yesterday?
Yeah, this is on 15th of August. So apparently, this is an appreciation token. So this link claims that if you click on it, you're going to get 20,000 for everyone.
Wow.
Kuambia shukrani, kwa kunipigia kura, and all that. But I feel that as Piga Firimbi, we've done a lot of such links.
Yeah.
And we all understand how much debt we have as a country. And 20,000 for everyone.
There's absolutely no way.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But people are desperate for money. People don't have money.
Yeah.
So they'll expect such money.
And I'm seeing that you're supposed to fill in a form.
Yes.
For these grants.
For these grants. So your first name, your last name, your phone number, email, city, all that.
Is that the con?
Now this is where they collect your data. This is where they mine your data when you give them all these information. But on Piga Firimbi, what we normally use is this tool. It's called Who Is.
Yeah.
So what you do, you first copy this link and check it on Who Is, and just see who's the domain owner of this website.
Of this website.
And most of the time, all of them, they are registered under Namecheap. And their location is always hidden. So like this one, the location is hidden. There is no information that is provided. But when we check UDA's website, because technically this is where they'll give such communication, there's no communication here. But when you check, when now you cross-check these two websites on Who Is, this one is registered under uda.ke. That means it is in Kenya, and its location is provided. So it is in Kenya. And it was registered under Deep Africa. It is a domain registrar. It is in Thika, so in Kenya. So everything is out there. It is provided. Now that, these are things that people out there don't know. But clearly this is a phishing link that is out here to collect your data.
So usually these kinds of links that ask you for your biodata, etc., there'll always be some sort of draw, either get a job or get some money, or there'll be a free prize, something like that. And they share these links all over the place. So step one, if you see something that you think is too good to be true, don't click on the link. Because that clicking on the link itself, there could be phishing, malware that's attached to the link itself that could mine your data and do a lot worse. And identity theft is a huge thing. Nyakerario, we're about to wind up on this episode. Do you have anything that you have been dying to ask Jambi?
Jambi, I'll ask. I'll really love to hear from you. Because honestly, when I sit with myself, and I'm very disappointed with myself, I won't lie, as a young person who didn't go out to vote, honestly, I feel I was detached from these elections. Why do you think young people really sold out this country? We showed up for campaigns, but we didn't show up to vote.
Just like I said earlier, the magnanimity of this election was dependent on various things. And like I said earlier, the young people are feeling detached, just like Nyak said, she was detached because she didn't see a representation. She didn't see who was going to represent her issues. And as a young person, you know, we've seen, you know, the big parties who are big and loud and they're out there, you know, driving the slogans rather than agendas, rather than see, you know, articulating young people's issues. And I feel that's where the disconnect came in, because the young people felt aggrieved that they did not have anybody who was representing them. But I also feel that on our part, there are people like us who are vying, and people like us who threw ourselves in the ring. And it's important for young people to look for candidates like us, support in every way, volunteer, go ahead for campaigns and push so that we can be able to have other young people representing us and progressive young people.
One of our past guests on this show said something about the next 10, 15 years for this country. And he was like, in as much as there are many challenges and that sort of thing, people need to start to do the work themselves. You know, and that's part of being an adult, right? So lazima wende utafute mtu mwenye, you know, their policies, their persona, all of that aligns with your vision for the country. So it's a tough thing to do, but Nyaks, itabidi sasa kazi ifanyike.
I mean, that is the brutal truth.
It is.
You know,
we
can't have things handed to us now, especially if we want to change this country. Jambi, final words here. What does the future look like for you? The people who are expecting that you'll be back on radio, doing the same thing. What does the future look like for Jahmby Koikai?
I think I believe the future is great for me. I will continue to carry out the projects that I've been doing in my constituency and other places as well all over the country, because I've been doing these projects all over the country, but in my constituency, I will continue, you know, because I've partnered with some water companies so that we can be able to dispense water for our people, because it is a necessity. And we'll be able to also donate sanitary towels to young needy girls and women in our communities. And, you know, just carry out the awareness and continue working with the relevant authorities so that we can be able to at least carry out civic education for our people, so that at least in the next election, people can be aware and people can be informed of the decisions they're making. The future is looking great. I'm very happy. Very happy that we ran a successful campaign. It was peaceful, and I've really picked up great lessons that will propel me into the next phase that I'm going into.
So the next phase is the fire of the reggae, but perhaps not the sound in studio. Out there in politics, out there in policy. Jahmby Koikai, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much
on the big picture. We weren't alone here. See, you've seen Nyakerario.
Yes.
And there was someone behind me. His name is Louis. Yes. Okay. So Louis has a gift for you.
Oh, nice.
So every person on our show, as you can see up there, we give a bit of a token of appreciation. For joining us on the big picture and giving us their time and their energy and their effort.
Oh, wow.
So that one is for you, right? So we're going to hang it up on the wall, but we'll also give you a copy for yourself.
Oh, this is sort of, he got my neck right. You know, I have such a long neck.
So that's you, right? Thank you very much for joining us. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is so beautiful. He got my neck right, my big eyes.
Yeah,
and my big head and my big hair. On the big picture.
on the big picture. Thank you very much for joining us, Jambi. And thank you for joining us as well. Well, we've got great shows every week on Africa Uncensored. If you happen to be, you know, watching this show, you've been watching the big picture for the first time, don't forget to like, subscribe, join our community of people who are trying to build new, interesting ways of reporting the news and investigating and understanding this country and this continent of ours. My name is John Namu. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you on the next episode.